Excited to welcome back our boy Louie Debrusk for his weekly appearance on the show. Louie, last night was ugly for many, many, many reasons. There was a game. It was a few seasons ago, and it was against Pittsburgh at home. They were losing. McDavid got hurt. He went down the tunnel, and Leon Draisaitl had like 3 amazing shifts, and the team turned it on, and they came back and won that hockey game. Last night, it was the other end of the spectrum. McDavid went down, and that was an abysmal effort from the Oilers. And I guess I'll just start with that. How disappointing was it to see the team maybe not use that McDavid injury as a bit of a rallying point? They were just flat.
It was a hard game to watch, hard game to call. I'm not going to lie. You're watching and waiting for something to kind of happen and maybe turn it around. I think that the Columbus Blue Jackets were really opportunistic. 3 goals in the first 6 shots. And you know what? That deficit was pretty hard to overcome from the start. But yeah, I thought there'd be a little more digging. I'm not going to lie. We saw some shuffling at the end of the game from Chris Knobloch. We saw some shuffling amongst the deep pairings from Paul Coffey. I mean, they were trying to find something, trying to find a spark to try and get something going. But I think combination of things. Number one, back-to-back situation. Come from behind win in Detroit the night before, an emotional win on Leon's birthday. They fly, they get into Columbus, a building they have not played well in recent years. It's been a terrible place for them to play. But they just couldn't seem to find it. And you were looking down the lineup going, okay, who's going to be the guy that kind of gets this going? I know that Draisaitl hit the post. They had a couple good chances there. The power play didn't create a whole lot until the power play goal at the end. They had 6 power plays in that game. That could have been the difference maker again, which we've talked about all year long. I don't want to put it all in the power play, though. I don't think that's necessarily fair. I just don't think they competed hard enough, and they just weren't sharp. They weren't connected. So Columbus is a young, hungry team. They've got some guys in there that get excited to play against Edmonton, and it showed in that situation. And they dominated that game for the most part. Didn't have a ton of chances now when you look at the shot clock, but I think it was safe to say that for me, it was the second opportunities. There was just no scrums around the front of the goaltender, no second opportunities, no rebounds. It was kind of a one-and-done night for Edmonton, and they just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, and like they did, to be fair, in the second period. Connor Brown, you mentioned the post by Draisaitl, but Connor Brown had that kind of half breakaway shorthanded. If that one goes in, how do things change? If the power play can get going, I know, like you said, you don't want to put it on the power play, but this is a team that in years past has had games like that where they get 3 or 4 power play opportunities in the second period, and it's bang, bang, and they've come back in the hockey game. So it's
a weapon,
nothing's working right now.
It's true, and it's been that way this season, and I know it's kind of taking on a little bit of water now, and even more so now that Connor is out, and we're not sure how long it's going to be, but isn't necessarily good anytime he leaves the lineup because he's not a guy that misses a lot of games. So when he leaves and goes down the tunnel and doesn't come back, we all kind of said, okay, it's obviously something substantial enough that he's going to miss some time because we've seen what he's played through. We've seen what Draisaitl's played through. We've seen what Darnell Nurse has played through. These guys will play through a lot because they know the importance that they are in respect to the team. They're very responsible that way, and they don't miss a lot of games. They don't want to miss games. So for him to go down the tunnel that early, 37 seconds into the game, that 3-0 opportunity by Connor Brown shorthanded, though, Jack and I both kind of lifted up kind of in the booth. Like when that took place, we're like, this could be the turning point here. If they score this shorthanded goal, it's a 3-1 hockey game, and that'll give you some sort of life to kind of dig in. And you're waiting for those moments in a game. I mean, for me, I ride the emotional roller coaster of a game like fans do, like the players do. We're right in the mix of it too, and we're trying to see what situations are going to maybe turn the game around. That would have been the game turner for me. But credit Merzlikins, he made another good save. Brown didn't finish, and the rest, as they say, is history. But that would have been the opportunity for me, especially a shorthand dagger, a 4-minute power play. It was like, okay, they score here. This kind of turns things in their favor. It just wasn't meant to be. I think that's a game last night, guys. I know nobody's going to want to hear this, but I think you take the game sheet, you rip it up. You obviously have to work on some things and start to put some line combinations together in the absence of Connor McDavid that you feel can get the job done and go to work because you're going to be playing a real tough Nashville Predators team. On Thursday, that's not the same team you played a week and a half ago. This is the team that's starting to find their way. Their big guys are starting to score, and they're going to be a different team and very motivated.
There's a lot of conversation about the power play, and I think that's an easy question to go through now, especially since McDavid's going to get changed out. They've got to find someone for him. So, but I wanted to ask you about the penalty kill. They're winning a lot of draws on the kill. That seems to be going well for them there, but they're so bad right now. They're last in the NHL. Like, what are you seeing when you're watching these games that's going so wrong for them when they're out there shorthanded?
It's incredible, but it's the same thing that happened last year. If you look at the start of last season, they couldn't keep a a puck out of their net on the penalty kill. It was just, it's a wave right now where they're kind of caught in between, I guess is what I'm seeing. The times that they're aggressive and they get on the power play aggressively and they close and they have good sticks and they're picking off passes and making that puck bumble a little bit, they're killing off penalties, that portion of the penalty kill anyway. They're getting it down the ice. It's when the opposing team comes in and kind of makes that one play to force the penalty kill to kind of go from being aggressive to, oop, we've got to get back into position now. And I find in that little bit of a transition, it's just, there's just not a real good sync there. And there's some little lines that open up. And when you give power plays lines, as we've seen with this power play in Edmonton so many years, if you give them that little inch, they'll take a mile. And that's what's happening. And right now, every time they make a mistake or every time there's a play to be made, it's being made right now. And that's just the nature of the beast. And sometimes you think it's never going to end, but they just got to buckle down. They've got to be a little more in sync. I know that for Chris Knobloch, he's talked about same thing. When one's going out, that transition of going out and in, you have to kind of be timed properly in order to make sure that those seams are being closed to the best of your capability. You're never going to take everything away. But they're giving up way too good quality of chances on the power play. It's one thing to give an outside shot through a screen, a deflection, two guys in front, that goes in the net. You're like, hey, that's the power play. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the puck goes in. But redirections in the slot like we saw last night with Monahan, grade A chances from the slot, anything around the net that's not being taken care of. That's the one area, in my opinion, on the penalty kill that you can condense down and you get four guys. I know you're outnumbered. Most of the time, the fifth guy's not coming down into the mix, or even the fourth guy for that matter. So you can outnumber in front of your net and you can make sure it's really difficult to come up with loose pucks. And I think that's it. I think they just need to really buckle down and protect the house, give the shots from the outside. I do believe they can block more shots, and I made a point of that last night in the telecast. Darnell Nurse had a nice block right in the middle of the ice, and Adam Henrique had a second block on the penalty kill. And that's absolutely necessary. If you want to be a penalty killer in today's National Hockey League, you have to be a good shot blocker. It's a skill like anything else. You have to get in the lanes, and you have to make it really difficult to bring a puck to your net. That hasn't happened enough for me. They need to be a little more committed to making it more difficult that shots get through. So a couple of things they can work on there, and they are going to work on them. They figured it out last year, and they changed it. They're in the same kind of run right now as they were last year at the start of the year, though, as far as the penalty kill goes. And it took them a long time to kind of write it last year. They're going to need to write it pretty soon here.
Yeah, I'll hammer a couple cliches out here, but they do always say your goalie needs to be your best penalty killer.
100%.
And when you look at the leaderboard right now, shorthanded save percentages, Calvin Pickard has a 500 save percentage when the Oilers are shorthanded. Stuart Skinner has a 760. Pickard would be the worst amongst qualified goalies. Skinner would be the seventh worst. But also, another cliche, it's a bit of a chicken egg thing, because it's like, okay, does the penalty kill stink because the goalies aren't making a save? Or like you said, are they just allowing way too many shots in the middle of the ice, way too many passes to hit the seam? And what do you expect the goalies to do? They can't stop a wide open backdoor pass. So that is the frustrating part too, is that now it's easy to pile on the goalies, but I do think there's more context that needs to be added. But there also is no denying, like, Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard have another level that they need to get to.
They need to get saves, period. You want to win hockey games, you need to get saves. I mean, Merzlikins made some saves last night. I don't think he was tested greatly, but he had to make a few difficult saves in order to keep the momentum in his team's favor. The times they've gotten those saves, they've won hockey games, Edmonton. When they haven't gotten those saves, and again, I'm not going to put it all on goaltending, but it's a major part of it, and especially on the penalty kill. It's the old, another cliche is you're only as good as your goaltender on the penalty kill. Simple as that. Like, I mean, if your goaltender's making saves, it doesn't matter what you do out in front of him. He can kind of save the day for you. But I don't think I think you need to dig in. I think everybody needs to dig in. If you're giving your goaltenders, like I said earlier, a little bit longer shots that they can see, you expect them to make those saves. 100%. Are they getting all those saves? No. Some of them are still going in. So that needs to be cleaned up. That's obviously part of it as well. For me, though, I always remember back talking to Shea Weber when he was with the Nashville Predators. And, you know, Pekka Rinne was just a staple there, obviously, for over a decade. And he was one of those guys that, you know, he looked like he wasn't ultra quick in his movement. It wasn't like he was making these dramatic saves. He was a very positional goaltender because he was so big. But I remember Shea Weber telling me, and same thing with Suter, saying if we let him see the puck, so our job in front of that net is to let him see the puck as much as possible. Our job is to take care of everything else. All he has to do is focus on the shooter. We make sure people are out of the way. They were like bulldozers in front. If you remember the way they played back then under Barry Trotz, it's the same way they're probably going to start to play now under Brunette. They want their goaltender to see the shot. They want their goaltender to be able to make the save. And if you give him that opportunity, he should make that save. So little things like that. But right now, I know I heard your opening coming into this conversation. There's a lot of things that aren't going well right now for Edmonton. And you can't fix them all in one game, but you can certainly move forward and start to dial in some different aspects of the game. And listen, I love their game in Detroit. Didn't love their first period. I mean, obviously that was maybe their worst period of the season. But I love the stay with it and the grind in the second and third period. And right now, especially without Connor McDavid, that's the game they have to get to. And there were small portions last night that I felt they got to it. It's got to be a low. In my opinion, you're not looking for run and gun. You start opening up, even when you have Connor, yeah, you're going to get your grade A chances, but you're going to also give the opposition some chances. On transitional plays back and forth, when you're slugging it out, going toe-to-toe, it's exciting hockey, and Edmonton can play that way. They're very dangerous, but you're going to take on water. You're going to give chances also on the transitional play from the opposition. What I liked about the Detroit game is they literally shut Detroit down. They said, okay, we're just going to start putting pucks in behind. We're going to start winning the wall, and we're just going to go to work, and we're going to find goals. I'm loving the traffic in front, liking the shots from distance and those kind of goals. I think those are winning type of goals and goals that we see a lot in the postseason. And what I also think it allows them to do is to control the game. And now without Connor McDavid, I think it becomes even more important. Manage the game. When we talk about managing the game, it's not just about, dumping pucks in and dumping pucks in. It's about making it so that your teammate can get to the puck first. It's putting pucks into areas. That's a skill like anything else. I mean, I think people think that grinding in the corners and cycling and playing off of one another is just like meat and potatoes hockey. Well, those little tiny subtle plays you have to make through a skate, through a stick, put it in the corner, put it across into the next corner. If you watch the top players, especially when Draisaitl and McDavid go at it, they're constantly evaluating where they need to put that puck so that somebody can skate into it. And you're doing that with 10 people in one zone with a goaltender. It's not easy. Those are very skilled plays you have to make, but Edmonton can play that game. That's where I feel they can win hockey games, especially when they don't have their top player. And I'm expecting them to play a little bit more like that. Just control the game a little bit, try and have a low event game where you're working for your opportunities, looking to score goals. And if they do that, I think they can grind through this. And I don't know how long Connor's going to be out, but that to me is the template. Even with Connor, when they get to it, they're a really hard team to play against.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, I think a lot of outsiders, at least I should say, look at the Oilers and go, Connor, Leon, Bouchard, they score on 2-on-1s and breakaways. But when you look at the playoffs last year, their success was grinding you down. They are a possession team at their core. When they're at their best, it's because they hold on to the puck more than you, and it's harder to score on them. Let's keep going with the cliches. The best defense is a good offense. That is what they are when they're at their best.
Well, you look at the game last night, and they just didn't do that. They weren't spending enough time in the offensive zone. They had some shifts, don't get me wrong. They did try and dig in, and I think that it was an emotional game. When you see your top player go down, Connor doesn't miss a lot of time. It does have an effect. I've been there. I've been on benches when your top player's gone. And everybody's looking around going, oh, well, now we're down to 11 forwards. You're going to have a lot of shuffling of the lines, and some guys are going to get more ice time. Some guys are going to get lost in the shuffle. And it does really disrupt your bench when you have a guy that's literally on the ice for over a third of the game. So it's a little different in that perspective, but they weren't sharp in making the plays. And that's what I'm talking about. When your game's not on, then you can't play that way. You can still dump the puck in. You can still aggressively forecheck. But if you're not making those subtle little plays that maintain the pressure, that allow your teammate to get to a puck first, that leave it to a 50-50 battle and win that 50-50 battle, it's going to be a long night. And I just felt there wasn't enough of that last night. Very perimeter. And I think that's something that they're going to probably work on tomorrow in practice, get to the inside. I mean, let's face it, this game is all about getting to the inside. You're constantly trying to get to the inside in both zones. In the defensive zone, you're trying to keep the play out to the outside. In the offensive zone, you're trying to penetrate and get into that inside as much as possible. And the job of the opposition is to keep you to the outside. That's the entire game. It really is. And you have to want it more. You have to want it more to get inside on that defenseman, get a better body position on him, and stay there and force yourself into a good spot. The veteran guys, Corey Perry, just watch him. He'll slither his way into a spot. He'll somehow slinky around a big defenseman and get himself into a spot right around the blue paint. I think that everybody can take a little page from that. It's work. You have to work to get to that inside, but that's what the game is all about.
What do you think the best call-up would be now for the Oilers? Do you think they bring up a guy like Noah Philp, or do you go more offensive with a guy like Savoy?
Home run swing would be Savoy.
Yeah, I mean, they're not scoring, right? So maybe Savoy.
I really like Noah Philp's camp, and I liked him in exhibition. To be honest, I think in different times, in a different situation, he probably earned a start. That's one of the guys, very few that have done it in Edmonton, in my opinion, over the years that I've covered the team, that have come in probably as a dark horse, not really on the radar, that walk into camp and play the way he plays. There's lots to like about him, though. He's big and he's fast. He would right now, he might be the fastest guy on the team. Like, I mean, with McLeod, with Holloway, with Fogle, guys that have been lost over the course of this last calendar year, he might be one, if not your fastest forward. I mean, he was flying in camp. So they can use the speed. They can use the side. He's a center. I know he could probably play wing too, but he's a centerman, and that's what he played in camp. I liked it. So he would be my natural selection to potentially come up if they do indeed call people up. But yeah, that for me is the first guy. As far as Savoy goes, though, it's an intriguing proposition because there's no question he's an elite talent. There's no question he thinks the game at a high level. What would he be like with maybe some higher end players? You've now had someone come out of your top six. So I've always felt, and this was something back in the day when I played. I used to apologize to my centerman. Danny Briere was one of them. Ralph Inchernovo, when he got called up to the Edmonton Oilers one time, he was playing the fourth line with me, and I'm like, hey, sorry, you get called up. You're an offensive guy. You've been an offensive guy your whole life, and you got to play with the slug on the left-hand side on the fourth line, which is me. So, but it's not like that anymore. When you lose a top six, typically you go and try and replace that top six. You want to bring somebody in that potentially can have an impact, at least in your top nine. I think Philp fills that, and there's a couple other guys down there. Savoy certainly fills that in an offensive perspective. I think they want him to have some more time. He's still a really young guy that needs to learn how to play the game at pro level. So I don't know if they want to rush him up. We'll see. You know what? Whoever they decide to call up, if they do decide to call people up, come up. It's a great opportunity early in the season. It's not that far gone from training camp to kind of come in and get your feet wet in the National Hockey League. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how long Connor's going to be out. Obviously, there was some reports that he's going to head back to Edmonton. So he's not going to be available for Thursday. Let's just say that. So you know what? They're going to have to do something. They'll have 11 forwards, and we'll see what they do.
And Knobloch traditionally has not liked going 11-7. So I'd imagine we are going to see a call-up.
Yeah, we're kind of expecting it. We'll find out more, obviously, tomorrow at practice. It's a day off for everybody today, and sometimes it's a perfect time for a day off after a game like that. You win a big game on Leon's birthday, the night before you come into Columbus, and we all saw what happened last night. Like I said, I'm not saying not take anything from that game, but that felt like a game last night to me that, as a coach, you go in there and go, okay, we still got work to do here. Obviously, we're working every single day, but we're not going to beat these guys up over this game. It was a one-off. Everybody seemed to be a little bit out of it, with the exception of, Zach Hyman. I don't know if he can create more chances. The puck's going to go in for that guy. I'm saying it right now. He scores Thursday against Nashville. That's why it's time. He's getting too many chances. He's around it too much. And then once he gets one, you're kind of thinking that the floodgates will open up, or it'll just be kind of what he does. He's not getting rewarded for all that hard work. And that's where sometimes I look up at the hockey gods and go, really, play the right way, do the right things, and it doesn't work your way. Well, it's going to in the long run. He's just got to work a little harder for it this year. But they're going to need something, right? They're going to need some guys to step up, some guys that haven't been on the board yet. They need more offense from everybody. I'm not just talking the top six. I'm talking everybody. Third line, it's been great with Henrik and Brown, that combination, but they each scored in the same game. Need to spread that out again. They need to start getting on the board. They need everybody pulling even more on that rope without 97 in the lineup.
Louie, enjoy your off day in beautiful Nashville. We'll chat with you again next week.
All right, guys. Take care.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.